Hey everybody, welcome to a fun edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. Thank you for joining us today. In studio, I have someone who's very interesting. We had a lot of fun talking on the phone. Dr. Lori Baudino. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are a clinical psychologist, a licensed clinical psychologist, and you just wrote this terrific guidebook. I love this. Super Flyers, a parent guidebook for airplane travel with children. Where were you when my kids were super little? I couldn't really use this. This is great. I looked through it. You give great tips, and I know a lot of people think, I don't need a guidebook. I just, throw a couple toys in the luggage and away we go. But it's not so easy, is it?
Yeah, no, it's very difficult and more anxiety-provoking than ever.
Yeah.
Today.
So tell me a little bit, why did you write this? Is it based on your own experience or based on people that were in your practice and you talked to them and they were like, I can't stand flying with my kids?
Yeah, it's two of my favorite topics. I specialize with working with parents and children, so parenting and then travel is a big passion of mine. And I love all the analogies of parenting as a journey and taking child development to new heights. So this idea was that if we can do all these strategies on the plane in this isolated environment that's fully a time for you and your child to connect, then we can be expert parents on the ground as well.
Easier said than done, and we all know that. Like,
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example. When my kid was little, my first child was little, and my kids are incredibly good travelers. I don't even know why. I think it's because as soon as he was 3 months,
You were out there.
we took him to the middle, we took him on a 17-hour flight.
Sure.
And from then on, the three of them have had a suitcase and they travel, but we've had our moments. And there was one time where he wouldn't get off the plane, and he was just stomping, and I had a little baby in my hand, and he was maybe 2 or 3. I didn't know what to do. I just let him finish, and then on our way we went. But by the time I was sitting down, I was frazzled.
Sure.
What do you do when that happens?
Sure. Well, part of this book is these really easy to remember acronyms, this pocket guide that you can take with you as you go, and your child can be involved as well. There's anecdotal stories from other children about their experiences.
Oh, I
So
like
children are set up for success from the beginning, and mindset's really important when we think about parenting. We have to set them up for success from the beginning. So practicing with them at home, showing them pictures, going over what's expected so that those moments are less likely to happen once you get to the airport.
So give me a really concrete example. Like, what do you do? Do you just say, now here's what we're going to do? I was never able to do that with my kids. I think maybe because I had 3 of them. They were all young at the same time, and 3 boys. Yeah. And this is the truth, they were running around at night with underwear on their head. And I'm not kidding. So imagine getting 3 kids with underwear on their head to sit down and listen to, now here's how you're going to travel.
Yeah,
so
you're right. You're right. Very important that we use play and we use a relationship. So like when you're saying the child is now on the floor tantruming at the airport, you're really getting down at their level and giving them some respect and some patience to say they're needing this space. We go to the sensory experiences. We help them see, I call it like the 3 Ps. Instead of saying, you're okay, stop acting like that, we got to get on the plane, you're saying the person. So I'm mommy, I'm here with you. The place, we're outside the airplane, we're about to get on. And now the plan, I'm going to hold your body or you can hold my hand and we'll walk in. Very, very clear.
I like
You're
that.
not
And I like
minimizing
that
their feelings.
Yeah, and you're right down with them and you're saying, mommy's here. I'll walk in with you.
But now at home, the kids are running around with their underwear on their heads. Guess what? They've just entered the airplane and you're playing with them. So some kids want to run around and saying, oh no, and we have to call the flight, maybe the pilot saying, everyone settle down, there's too much running around. There's got to be some engagement with that. If they're not kids that want to, your parent feeling anxious, like, I don't know if I want to play, that's not my thing. Maybe it is looking at pictures. Maybe it is watching something that's about airplanes. Maybe it's reading a book. There's so many options, but most importantly, that you're setting them up for, this is not a new thing for you. We've gone through this together a few times.
So do a little setup at home.
Absolutely.
If they'll listen.
Yeah.
I know we talked yesterday on the phone. It seems like your kids would sit down at the dinner table and listen when they were little. Mine were actually pretty good.
Yeah. Well, all kids
there were
will.
moments,
All kids will if it's meaningful. But it's about, like we talked about, right? There's so many different types of children. Temperament, we have different experiences that they go through, how they perceive their environment, their attention span. They could be tired. There's lots of things affecting them every day. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. But the relationship is
like
always...
adults.
Yes.
It's like adults.
But relationships always a one size fits all. It's when you are showing mutual respect and you're engaging together, it becomes meaningful and the child wants to do it.
And I guess always have something on the plane, obviously, that they they love to play with.
Sure. I love empowering children to be active participants. So they get to pack their own carry-on bag. It could be a Ziploc bag as small as you can put in your purse, or it could be their own little wheelie backpack that they hold on their back. They decide the objects, of course, limit it down. Don't have things that make lots of noise or roll away or small parts that are going to get lost and then the child's going to have a huge meltdown. But they can be really excited about it, and then do not touch those things until you're up in the air. Really draw out that playtime so you're not doing multiple things and now they've already played with that and they're bored of it.
Don't you also find, though, it's a brand new environment, so they're excited, and then they will sort of, if you will, for lack of a better word, behave appropriately when they're in the plane, just because it's a new thing.
Yeah, one of the acronyms I talk about getting acquainted. So it is a new environment, even if they've been traveling before. Each time is new people.
Yeah.
Each time is a new location, usually different pilot, all these different things. But walking in, help them explore their environment. How many seats are it? How many before we get to our seat? I even say introduce them to the person in front of them, or let them see it's a human being, not just a place for them to kick. When there's a relationship and a connection,
I know,
they're
right?
excited.
The person in front's going, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I would do? I would sit down and say, my kids are really good travelers. It's going to be okay. Because I was so concerned when I'd see the look on their face that they would just want to move their seat,
Absolutely.
And it's tough.
Right.
I
But kids don't want to push the person in front of them if it's a person.
Yeah.
They're not doing that to hurt someone. They're just moving their bodies. So we have to give them other choices.
No, that is true. Although I have been kicked and kicked and kicked, and I'd have to turn around and say, you are so strong.
Yeah.
But can you not kick my,
Right.
and they're like, oh, sorry.
Can you kick
you're
with your
right.
fingers together? Can you
you're
move
so
your
good.
shoulders? Can you move your head? Can you explore a different way of getting input to your body? They're not bad. They're just needing support.
The way you're talking,
Yeah.
this is what I think should be taught in school when you're really little.
Sure.
And you learn how to talk to other kids, and then as you're getting a little older, how to talk to your peers, and then as you're, in high school, how to then turn around and talk to, prepare young adults to be a parent. And,
Sure.
You've had lots of training, but a lot of people haven't. And the parent will just sit down and cry because they're so overwhelmed. But these little ways that you're saying to kind of reframe how you talk to a kid makes all the difference.
Sure. I really talk about it's not distracting the child. It's about empowering them. They have choices, and when our mind gets in a state of stress or in a new environment, it's often hard, as smart as our kids are, to know what to do. And so when we look at it from a body perspective of what they can do, then we're less likely to put labels on them and judge them and get ourselves all stressed and tense about what everyone's expecting or thinking about our child. And there's just more options to engage.
Why do we care so much about what the next guy thinks? Because you're right, it should be about trying to empower your little kid to feel comfortable, because when he's comfortable, you're comfortable, and everybody else is.
Sure.
But a lot of times parents will be more concerned, just like I told you, I would sit down and say, it's going to be okay. Why do we do that?
Yeah, I think there's just so many layers of this. Parenting now is so much pressure. There's so much research. There's so many books out there. There's so much you can do. And then we also are exhausted, and we have to have our own agendas, our own work-life balance. And so it's a lot to put on ourselves. There's a lot of expectations. And so we do want to show that our children are reflections of us, that we're good parents, right? But I think what's so amazing is that when we give ourselves some credit and we really focus on our child, everyone is more accepting. It's really hard for a child to live up to expectations if we're worrying about what others are feeling versus our own children.
Are you modeling the behavior that was taught to you when you grew up?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom was, and dad, but my mom was so creative. She always was finding different ways to learn and accept my way. Rather than changing me to fit the learning, we were changing the learning to fit me.
I would always
That
find
balance.
little books, because we've gone truly lots of places, everywhere from Africa to Russia with these kids, and all three of them.
Yeah.
From when they were literally infants.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they have done a lot of travel.
Sure.
And I'd find books on their level,
Yeah.
if it was Africa, the different animals they were going to see. And I
Yeah,
always
making it
tried
meaningful.
to do my best.
Sure.
They were always actually pretty good. We got lucky about that. And now they love traveling.
Yes.
It wasn't always easy, like I said, when he had the tantrum getting on. And we had our one kid, oh my gosh, at the age of 1, he was screaming. And he's the quietest of all of our kids. He never has had tantrums. And he just wouldn't stop, and we couldn't figure it out. And my husband finally lifted him up and said, "Stop!" And he just quieted down. It's almost like he was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, he was asking for, can someone take control here?
Yeah.
Can someone give me some information?
I don't know what was going on, but he was
Sure.
just really stressed out by the experience. And everybody was holding him, passing him around. Oh, my gosh. In fact, I've got my producer on the phone. Misty, are you there? Misty, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hey,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Hi.
How are you? I can't hear you that well,
Good.
Tony. Can you
It's
put it up a
funny
little bit?
because
There you go.
my son is a year and a half right now.
Oh, listen
but
to this.
the first time we took him on an airplane, he was only about 3 or 4 months old.
Sure.
And
Look how cute.
I can remember a situation where he was screaming and crying so much that a woman came over and suggested that I lay him face down on a tray table and just pat his back. And
Wasn't it the food
He
tray
made
or
quite-
something?
The food tray in front.
say that again?
Wasn't it the food tray you said?
Yeah, the food tray that's connected to the seat in front of you.
Sure.
And that didn't quite work. That just made him more frustrated and louder and louder. In fact, over the intercom, I heard an announcement that said, "We're giving out a free drink and headphones to anybody that would like one."
Oh, no.
So,
I would have
Yeah.
just
and
sunk.
my husband didn't even hear that because the screaming was so loud. But I told him, "Did you just hear what they said?"
So,
Yeah. So.
So something that I hear when you're talking about that is the child's sensory experiences.
I see.
In this book, I'm really talking about how our perceptions impact our emotional system. This happens with children. I collaborate a lot with occupational therapists and children that look at relationships and developmental practices with children. And our area of expertise is really looking at children are affected by their environment. So it could be the sound, it could be the pressure of the cabin, it could be the overexposure of too many people. So we can actually help these children find a way to soothe. And it is different for each person.
So what would you do in a case like that when
So-
even just laying him out on the tray table wasn't working?
Right.
Wow,
So
Misty.
unfortunately, it's about timing, right? So we have to look at I say it like if the pitcher of water is poured out all the way, we need to help them feel safe and secure. So it might be getting up and moving them in getting that. I kind of mimic the rhythm that they're moving, like how frequent their intensity is. I might use my body to mirror that experience. Again, I might change the environment. I use, in the book, I talk about creating a tent in the space. So you're kind of taking the top of a blanket and
gosh.
covering it to the food tray and having this own space with them. So
My kids naturally did that. They
Yeah.
would gather as many
Fantastic.
blankets as they could, and they'd tent themselves off. I would
And
be
then go to sleep.
thrilled because I think, oh, good. They figured out a way to sequester themselves, and hopefully this lasts throughout the flight. So
yeah.
that's
So
a great
hopefully you're
idea.
getting the child before they are that upset, But then we do know that there are other ways to tap into their sensory system, not just thinking, oh, they're being difficult or they're never going to stop crying, but that you kind of say, I've got this, I'm here for you. And then you're really looking at, do I need to change the sound here? Do I have to give their body input, which is kind of that idea of laying the child down, but that might have not been the right intensity at that moment.
Sorry, Misty. Laying the kid out like a food tray may not have been the answer
Yeah.
here.
But it could have been in terms of like giving that body some support. He might have needed to come closer to you. But what I'm emphasizing is that you have options to look at in terms of how your child soothes. One of the things I talk about is keeping routines very consistent. If there are things you do at home to help your child soothe, you continue to do those on the plane. From going to the bathroom and getting ready to sleep, changing their clothes, having things accessible like familiar loveys, your nursing on the plane if that's what you're doing at that time, really having things accessible to go to.
What about a nice program that they enjoy watching? That'll calm them down. I mean, I know they say, oh, don't just throw them in front of the TV or whatever, but sometimes it can be soothing. All those little shows, Misty, right, that we were talking about, like Richard Scarry and just sort of the cute ones where, he's sort of driving through his little town and he goes to the post office and
Well,
the school.
television is definitely an option, but I always emphasize it's not necessary. You certainly can go on long flights without television, and there are lots of options, and the book kind of goes into different examples
Tell
of what
us
you
some,
can do.
because I think you're about to get on a plane, right? And she's pregnant as well. So
Sure,
she's about to have her
sure.
second child, and she's
Yeah.
thinking, oh no, now what am I going to do?
And if you do use television, though, it's just about making it interactive, setting a set time for it, knowing that 1 hour can go or one half an hour can go into hours, and then you're watching back-to-back shows. And what's hard is the expectation of after they get off the show. It's very hard to transition from having full control of just zoning out to then having to respond to expectations from a parent. So you want to give that leeway after they watch. And if you're not going to watch television, it's spacing that out. Make sure they're eating separately from watching television. They're taking out their toys and completely doing an activity, then closing it, putting it away, taking out the next one. So you're not overlapping things where you run out. Finding opportunities. I used to take the trash bag that you're supposed to in case you get sick. We used to make that into puppets and interact with it. We used to find images and pictures. We used to do guessing games about where do you think other people are from on the plane.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
It's endless opportunities. But again, it's about slowing down that time and really seeing it as an opportunity to say, I have undivided attention right now with my child. Usually on the ground, you're on the phone, you're on the computer,
producing
you're driving,
a show.
you're producing a show. This should be seen as a gift, and when your children feel that it's a gift, they will accept it.
There you go, Misty. So when you're
what
traveling,
do you feel about an energetic toddler? Do you let them run up and down the aisle a few times, or?
I love that idea. So many people say children have to sit very still and quietly, and I just do not see that as the only way of moving. If you can't get up and jump around, you can certainly use other parts of your body to move in your seat. If you think about flying with adults are talking, they are moving the entire time. They are not sitting still like statues. And there's this expectation, that children are supposed to do that. But they can wiggle their hips, they can squeeze their tummies, they can roll their shoulders, they can move their fingers. You can play a follow the leader kind of game. You can play a freeze dance kind of game where you're stopping and starting. If you join your child in how they're moving, they have opportunities and they'll more relax. But definitely, like you were saying, taking walks, finding opportunities to use weight, like are we pressing with our hands? Are we rolling with our hands? Different opportunities. So you're not just thinking it goes from extreme movement to no movement.
Some of the flights that we would be on with them were so long, like from beginning to end. I'm talking 36 hours, okay?
Sure.
And now, granted, there was a stop or two, but I'm thinking, how am I going to get through the first 16 with these kids? And we just did it. My kids would like to draw. Thank God. And my younger one, he's extremely sporty and athletic, and thank goodness he would just sort of mimic what the other two would do, because now I don't think, like if he were the first kid and he's super sporty, that would have been harder because he would have, taken the lead. But because he was the younger one, he would just follow their lead and he'd start coloring and stuff. But little things, right? The books, the coloring, pass the kid around. Usually I think passengers want to help a little bit, right?
We hope so.
There was a story that recently went viral, I think, with there was a kid who was just completely having the meltdown of the century, and just he couldn't be calmed down or soothed, and the mother just lost it. She just broke down and cried. I think I saw this on Good Morning America, and a group of women who were, nobody knew her. They just gathered around to help her because she had just broken down and couldn't help her. So help the next person, right?
I think we don't want to expect someone to take over, and sometimes that could increase the stress for the child to be with a stranger, but we certainly can look for support if it's there. One of the other reasons I wrote this book was I always thought, gosh, if I could be the psychologist on the plane that gave out support to everyone that comes on, because I sit there and see these children stressed and parents stressed, and I think, I would love to get in there.
You should just get on the microphone and go, excuse me, I'm not the stewardess here, but I have some advice for people traveling with children. Wouldn't that be great?
And it's really about setting them up for success. I've seen children running down the aisle and throwing things when the parent's getting acquainted to their environment, just kind of getting their stuff in, to 2 seconds later the parent reprimanding them for that same behavior. So we want to be consistent with what our expectations are and really let them know, like, while I'm doing this, you get to do this. What do you write out your schedule together. And then you allow for some flexibility in there.
It's really in the hands of the parent, honestly, how the parent handles it. Because if they're stressed, the kid's going to be stressed. There's no doubt about it. Do you have another question for her, Misty?
I guess for discipline, if you're going to discipline your child, do you recommend doing that at the seat, or for some moms that do spank their child, is that appropriate, or what do you recommend for that?
It's very important to know that, and I will put it out there, that discipline means to teach. So when we are getting into physical things, we got to think about what we're teaching and really advocate for some very clear expectations, and then also modeling. So we can't give a consequence of I'm going to move you away from the seat because they have to stay there. So I really look at it as an opportunity of inclusion. When you do this, we get to do this. It's not about being permissive, but it's about letting the child saying, I know you need help, and I'm going to set this firm support for you. I'm going to let you know you're safe. And that is really important. The child.
And that's a discipline right there.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether they're out of control or not. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. So yeah, it's just really seeing your child as they're needing support. In that moment, there might be all different confusing aspects of being on the plane. They might not know what to do when they're feeling bored. They might not know how to express their emotional vocabulary of saying they're anxious about the flight or not sure of that noise or that feeling of the turbulence. And we need to look at that as an opportunity to connect with them versus saying, you're bad, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they're
Great.
not really getting the message. They're just feeling badly about themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Misty, thanks a lot. I really
Thank
appreciate you
you.
calling
Thank
in.
you.
She's got her little
Great
one
talking to
probably
you.
in the back reading a book and saying, shh, mommy's busy.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I really
fun.
appreciate that. Now, you do a lot of,
course.
you can stay on if you want, if you have another question. You do a lot of mind-body connection. What is that like? We were talking about that on the phone. I said, explain that one to me.
Yeah. What's so exciting for me as a psychologist is the field is really learning more. The neuroscience is really looking at this mind-body approach, this bottom-up approach of saying that
What is that?
that therapy needs to look at the whole child. We have to understand that emotions and experiences happen in our body. So I call it body knowledge. When you have this awareness of how your body reacts to your environment meaning how you hold feelings in your body, how you relate to somebody else, how your body reacts to the environment.
So it's how your body reacts. It's not a physical thing like get out there and move.
Well, it is too. So in sessions, instead of just sitting and talking about something, I feel frustrated when this happens, or a parent saying, I'm using empathy. I'm going down to my child and saying, oh, I see you're frustrated, but now we have to leave the park. It's not just enough to say this with words. We actually have to use our bodies. We have to embody these experiences. We have to be authentic. So
Right.
we have to be able to say to our child with our whole bodies, I see you're really wanting to move. And now we're going to have to sit in the car. And we have to use our whole bodies to show that. We can't just say the words.
So then what do? The kid wants to move, but the kid can't. So how do you
Yeah.
handle
So we're going to move for a moment and we're going to go in the car, and we can't run with our feet on the plane, but we can certainly have those other choices of how to move. And then what's that planned opportunity coming? So when can we move? Oftentimes we just say no to our children, but we don't let them know when they can. So to them, it's like all or nothing. It feels like it's never going to happen. So they get to see,
So when
maybe we
they-
can't do it
when
now,
can they?
but we could do it later. We could do it next week. I hear your idea is important, and we'll get back to it. Also, it's about meeting the child at their level, joining their language to join ours, and most often our children are speaking nonverbally. Sometimes I have parents that say, my child doesn't say anything. I don't know what they feel. The child's sitting there slumped over, picking at their nails or, tying up their shirt or completely turning their head away. They're constantly communicating. And so my goal is to help parents understand that these children are communicating to us, and also we are communicating to them. When we have frustrated faces, when we have tight shoulders, when we have crossed arms, this means something. And we have to be aware of how our bodies affect one another.
When you said when kids are looking down or looking away, should you engage a kid when they're doing that or just let them be?
It obviously depends on the situation. Oftentimes in medicine, we don't look for a one-size-fits-all, right? Like if
Right.
you were getting your teeth checked, there's different ways that you would say, like, what is going to straighten my teeth is going to be different than somebody else's teeth. But for some reason, when it comes to parenting psychology, everyone wants like a one-size-fits-all. They want
Yeah.
like tell me what to do. And it's really important about understanding that each child's different.
Yeah.
And
each
so we
adult is
we
different.
respond that way. So in the moment, we might just oftentimes I say to narrate, we might say, I see you're looking down, and I feel kind of unsure of what that means. We might kind of acknowledge like what I see and how I feel, not you look angry, you look bad, but it's like
what you're
I am.
what you as the parent
yeah.
are observing.
And then I always encourage parents to try it on. See what it feels like if you make your body look like that. What does it feel like for just a brief moment? Because I believe it really makes you connect to what is going on. You get to
telling
move
you,
something.
I believe this is the kind of stuff, I really mean it, that I would say teenagers need to learn. So by the time that they get into young adulthood and their parents, that they know, because most parents don't know. And I
Right.
really mean that. I'm around parents day and night. They get frustrated. And these are the best of people and the best of intentions. And they frustrate out. And it's just little ways to turn that around.
And our body is incredible. We hold our experiences, our disorders, our diseases, our illnesses in our body, and there's a reason for it. And so we really want to be able to communicate full body, with every intention, not just our words and intellect, like, oh, I see it, but like actually embody it.
Do you talk
Practice
a
it.
lot about like what foods kids eat? Do you get involved with that too?
I do.
Because, if you're putting more processed foods
Sure,
and
sure.
sugary stuff, that's not really going to help the situation, right?
Yeah.
If you can try as best you can.
I love collaborating. I am not a nutritionist. I stay with my scope of practice, but I love collaborating with the whole approach of a child. So I do collaborate with ophthalmologists, so looking at their eyes and how eyes play into their perception of how they're interacting with their environment. As I mentioned, occupational therapists.
What do you mean? Just if they're engaged
If there's
in
something,
looking at you?
or there's something going on with their eyes. Sometimes we don't always know that as a parent. They can read the chart, but there might be more going on.
I see.
But nutrition, how their diet, food really affects. We think about with plants, we feed them certain foods, the plant, and it grows, and other plants don't, or they die out. Same thing with our bodies. So we do want to make choices. I think what's most researched and the outcome says moderation. But we do know that certain foods affect certain people, certain times. Thinking about the day, like how the child organizes their day, when to have certain foods. And of course, we want to make their whole body, every part of them, mind and body and spirit, healthy.
So this is great. Have you written any other, if you will, guidebooks? Because this is terrific. And like I told you, I looked through it yesterday, and it's easy to read.
It's
too.
so easy. Yeah.
Easy, but it's got a lot of common sense. Like I said, most people would say, "Oh, no, you just pack a bag," but it's not so easy.
Well, I know
But
that
you've made
there's
it easy.
I know that there's so many therapy and parenting books out there, and there's some fantastic books.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was to really make it that pocket guide, that go-to, that you can really pick up and take with you. And I really wanted to also make it interactive for kids. I wanted them to be able to see that they can go along, and you get these passport stamps each chapter to kind of feel like they know how to do this, and they can be able to collaborate with their parents on that mission.
Yeah.
And that I do believe that these philosophies, that mindset, really sets you up for parenting on the ground.
So the big takeaway for any parents watching this, and they may have a question but haven't been able to, is what would you like to say to parents? Like, look, if you just try this and this approach, it'll get you perhaps to what you're hoping for. Any takeaway for parents?
So many. I think what I come back to is just that oftentimes when we're hit these walls where we're saying, oh, it doesn't work, that doesn't work, it's just that we come back to the relationship. We come back to, let me think about my timing. Should I have slowed down? Can I move faster? Let me check in and see what I'm noticing in that child's body and even my own posturing. And that how we model for our children really does set them up for success. And they're not trying to be bad. They're just needing some meaningful understanding of what we're expecting and to really have fun with it, to play.
Well, that to me is the big one.
Yeah.
Just have a little fun, because whenever we went anywhere, and it could just be even a 2-hour flight, it's somewhere a little different than your home, because that's why you're flying there.
Yeah.
And make it fun. I agree. If you just, and already then the pressure's off, right?
Yeah.
Just make it a little, but that's with anything. That's with going to work or whatever. And if you're stressed because you're feeling late, just, stop and make it fun.
Right.
Good lesson for all of us, really.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean to be a circus or have to be like super creative. Your child actually has all the ideas. They're
Yeah, they
already
do.
doing it. So we can just say, oh, they're wiggling. Okay, I'm going to wiggle for a second too. I'm just going to join that.
What else do you work on with families and parents when they come to see you?
So I see children from young working on attachment and relationship, trauma, anxiety, depression, all the way up to sensory processing differences, learning challenges, behaviors, all the way up to adolescence. And as well as at hospitals, I work with children with cancer and special needs, and working on using dance movement therapy, giving those patients opportunity to express the pain and compliance through their body.
I think that is beautiful. Where do you do that work?
Pediatric hospitals in Los Angeles.
I think that's fantastic. I think you're wonderful. You give just very common sense advice. Do you Skype as well with people, or is it usually in person?
Yeah, usually in person. I really, again, it's just being able to really embody those
And to
experiences
connect.
and to connect.
Connect with the person.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you, and how can people order this
Yeah.
guidebook, which is
So-
terrific? I would recommend it. I really would. I
Thank
loved
you.
it.
So the book is actually at Brahman's in Pasadena, in the bookstore. It's also on Amazon. You can get it. And there's even a Kindle version. My website is my name, so drloribaudino.com.
Baudino.
Correct. And that has all the information to contact me. And I just want to say that I'm also the national clinical spokesperson for the Andrea Rizzo Foundation, which provides the grants to the hospital for doing dance movement therapy, and that's dreyasdream.org.
Tell us very briefly, what is that about and how can people participate in that? That's important work that you do.
Yeah, so again, at the hospital, it's about supporting children with cancer and special needs. We accept anyone at the hospital because that falls under special needs. So I do see children with blood diseases and pain disorders, and it's really giving them an outlet to express the hospitalization, the experiences they're going through, not only through words, but through their body, giving them a chance to have an outlet to feel connected and supported. And the program provides support with dance movement therapists across the country. It's the only nonprofit that does this for dance movement therapy.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, and all their
That's a
proceeds
tall
go
order.
directly for more therapy. So the children are constantly getting that direct support.
Before I let you go, tell us again the name of that so people can
Yes,
look that up.
the Andrea Rizzo Foundation. It's called Drea's Dream.
Drea's Dream, the Andrea Rizzo Foundation. Dr. Lori Baudino, thank you so much for
You're
being here.
welcome.
I really enjoyed talking to you. You taught me a few things that I wish I had known. But, I'm going to apply it anyway. I'm going to apply it to
Absolutely.
the next person that I see with a young kid and
Sure.
try and help out a parent that I think is looking really stressed.
Yeah,
So
even in all of our relationships. We've had a dance back and forth today already.
Yeah,
talking.
there's no doubt about it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here for another fun edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. We'll see you soon.